Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive?
Always red.
Awesome. Today we're tackling compromise.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's tricky, but especially how to compromise without ending up, bitter.
Right, exactly. Because nobody wants that.
No, not at all. We got a great article from Forbes
Oh, cool.
by psychologist Mark Travers
Okay,
called How to Compromise Without Bitterness in Relationships.
I like it already.
Yeah, by the end of this, you'll have some real strategies to deal with those disagreements. All relationships have them.
They really do.
Emerge even stronger,
Yes,
on the other side.
I love that.
So the article starts off by just like totally debunking this myth that I think we've all kind of fallen for.
Yeah.
The 50-50 rule.
Right.
Like everything has to be split right down the middle
Oh, yeah.
all the time.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
And, that sounds great in theory,
Sure.
but
But in reality, life just doesn't really work that way. It's like trying to balance a seesaw, right? With two people that weigh like totally different amounts.
yeah.
Someone's always going to feel like they're up in the air.
Yeah. So the article kind of reframes this 50-50 idea,
Okay.
suggesting it's more about an overall balance,
Got it.
like over time.
Okay.
So not about, keeping score
Right.
of who did the dishes exactly half the time.
Exactly.
Right,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's more about recognizing that, sometimes one person might be giving more like 70%,
Uh-huh.
while the other is giving 30%. And, maybe you're swamped at work.
Right.
And your partner's picking up the slack around the house. And that's okay as long as things even out eventually.
I see.
And this balance isn't just about those tasks,
Yeah. Oh.
It's about emotional needs too.
So making sure that both people, I guess, feel heard,
Yes.
understood, valued,
Absolutely.
even when you don't see eye to eye on a particular decision.
Yes, and to get to that, the article suggests we shift our focus
Okay.
from what we disagree on to the why, like what's behind each person's position.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's all about understanding the need that's driving that want.
The need. They use this great example about choosing a restaurant,
Oh, yeah.
which seems pretty simple, on the surface.
It does, yeah.
But one person might, be craving adventure,
Mm,
new flavors. And the other person's like, actually, I just want something comforting and familiar.
right.
Right.
It's not always just about the food.
Yeah.
It's about the experience
Yeah.
and what each person is, really looking to get out of it.
Right. What their needs are.
Yeah, and if we don't understand those needs, then
Yeah.
it just becomes this power struggle.
Ugh. Yeah. So instead of taking turns each week, which could still leave someone feeling unsatisfied,
Right.
the article suggests having an open and honest conversation about why,
Yeah, I love that.
right? Why do you want what you want? Maybe you discover a new place that has both, exciting new dishes and the classic favorites.
It's about getting creative
Yeah.
and finding those solutions that work for both partners, Understanding those deeper needs like unlocks this whole new level of compromise.
Totally. But okay, wouldn't that require some really good listening skills?
It would.
Like really tuning in to what your partner's saying,
Yeah.
not just waiting for your turn to talk, right?
You hit the nail on the head. The article, it emphasizes like quality listening,
Okay.
creating that space where your partner can really express themselves
Yeah.
without feeling judged,
Right.
without feeling interrupted.
Yeah.
And there's even research to back this up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a study found that like high quality listening during these difficult conversations, it actually reduces defensiveness
Ah.
and it promotes understanding.
Wow. So it's not just like a feel-good thing.
Right.
It's like backed by science.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So are there any tips for improving our listening game?
The article suggests like actively reflecting back,
Yeah.
what your partner's saying to make sure you're on the same page.
Uh-huh.
Like saying something like, it sounds like you're feeling overwhelmed by this decision. Is that right?
Yeah. It's like showing them, you're not just hearing the words, but really understanding
Exactly.
their perspective. I can see how that would make someone feel valued.
It does. And it fosters that connection that's so important for healthy compromise. Now, on the flip side,
Okay.
there's one habit that can really erode that connection
Oh.
and lead to bitterness.
Okay, tell me.
Scorekeeping.
Scorekeeping.
Yes.
Yeah, we've all been there,
Oh, I know.
right? Mentally tallying up,
Yeah.
who did what last?
Yes.
Who gave in on the last argument?
It's almost like it's human nature, isn't it,
It is.
to keep track?
Yeah.
But research actually shows that it breeds resentment.
Okay.
and ultimately decreases relationship satisfaction.
So it's like instead of feeling like a team,
Yeah.
it becomes a competition.
Exactly. Exactly. So how do we break free from that?
Yeah, how do we get out of that scorekeeping trap?
The article proposes like a really cool mindset shift.
Okay.
What if we viewed compromises as deposits, right?
Okay.
Into the relationship's bank account.
Wait, like we're investing
Yes.
in the long term.
Yes.
That's kind of
Well,
cool.
yeah.
Yep.
So each time we choose to listen to our partner's needs, we find that solution that benefits both of us. We're making a deposit. It's not about like winning or losing individual arguments,
Right.
but strengthening that bond for the long haul.
Zooming out, seeing the bigger picture.
Exactly.
I like that. But what about those times when like life throws a curveball?
Yes.
You know, one partner is going through a tough time
Yeah.
and they just can't contribute as much. Does that like throw the whole balance thing off?
That's where the concept of flexible fairness comes in.
Good.
It acknowledges that, life isn't always smooth sailing, and sometimes 50-50 just isn't realistic.
Yeah, the article uses the example of like one partner going through a really stressful period at work, for example.
Right.
And it makes sense that, things would temporarily shift
Exactly.
to more of like a 70-30 split.
Right. The key is, open communication and trust.
Yeah.
Both partners need to be aware of that temporary imbalance and have faith that things will, balance out eventually.
Yeah.
Research actually shows that, like, clinging to these rigid expectations of fairness, that can actually be detrimental.
Right.
Yeah, to relationship satisfaction.
So it's not about like being a doormat.
No.
But about understanding that like, life has these ebbs and flows.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes one person needs to lean on the other a little bit more.
And that brings us to perhaps the most important point the article makes.
Okay.
Prioritizing the relationship above the outcome of any particular disagreement.
Oh, yeah. I can see how that's crucial. It's so easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment.
It is.
Just wanting to be right or get your way.
Yeah.
But sometimes we need to step back.
Yes.
And ask, like, is winning this argument really more important than the relationship itself?
That's such a powerful question.
It is.
Because oftentimes the answer is no.
Right. So compromise isn't about, like, giving in or losing.
Right.
It's about, finding a solution that works for both partners and strengthens the bond.
Absolutely. It's about remembering you're on the same team.
Okay, so we've debunked the 50-50 myth.
Yes.
We've talked about how important understanding those needs are. We've highlighted the power of listening, ditching that scorekeeping mentality.
Yes.
In favor of flexible fairness. This is like a whole new way to approach compromise.
It really is. And ultimately, it's about recognizing that connection you have with your partner. That's the most valuable thing.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we all want to feel loved and supported and connected.
Yeah. Absolutely.
To someone who gets us.
Yes.
So what does this all mean for our listeners? How can they actually put these insights into practice?
I think it starts with awareness.
Okay.
Recognizing those moments when we might be, falling back into those old patterns.
Right, like catching yourself in the act.
Yeah.
And making a choice to change it.
Yeah, instead of, like, jumping into problem-solving mode, take a pause. Ask yourself, what's the need behind my partner's request? Am I truly listening, or am I just waiting for my turn to talk?
Right. And remembering that compromise is an ongoing process.
It is.
It's not like a one and done. It requires effort.
Yes.
Commitment from both partners.
Absolutely.
Checking in, being open to feedback.
Yeah.
Adjusting your approach as needed.
Because, relationships are dynamic.
They are.
They change.
Yeah, and what works today might need to be tweaked tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The key is to stay flexible, keep communicating, and never lose sight of that shared goal.
Right. The relationship.
Yeah. A happy and fulfilling one. It's about being on the same team.
I love that. This has been so insightful.
It has.
But before we wrap up this first part,
Okay.
I want to leave you with a question from the article.
All right.
That really got me thinking.
I'm ready.
It's about this idea of flexible fairness,
Yeah.
but like applying it beyond romantic relationships.
Oh, interesting.
Because, we talk about how it's crucial for romantic relationships.
Yeah.
To be flexible, especially when one partner is going through a rough patch.
Yeah.
But what if we applied that same principle to friendships,
Okay.
family relationships, Even work dynamics.
Yeah, I like that. Like expanding that circle
Yeah.
of understanding
Yeah.
and support.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about it. We all go through different seasons,
We do.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There'll be times when we need to lean on others
Yeah.
more,
Uh-huh.
and times when we have more to give.
That's true.
So instead of getting caught up in this rigid sense of fairness,
Yeah.
where everything has to be perfectly balanced
Right.
all the time,
Yeah.
what if we embraced this idea
I love that.
of flexible fairness across the board?
It's a great point. It requires trust,
Yeah.
empathy,
Mm-hmm.
a willingness to let go of that scorekeeping.
Right.
But what if we just allowed ourselves and those around us
Yeah.
to ebb and flow,
Yeah.
knowing that that give and take will naturally even out over time?
Yeah.
You know?
That's a powerful concept.
It really is. And I think it has the potential to transform not just our romantic relationships,
Right.
but all of our connections.
Our interpersonal connection.
Yes,
Because it's about recognizing that we're all in this together.
we are.
We all go through challenging times.
Yes,
And we all have those moments when we need extra support.
absolutely.
And by embracing this idea of flexible fairness, we create, a more compassionate world
Yeah.
where everyone feels seen,
Yes,
heard,
valued.
valued. Yes.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. We learned that true compromise is about understanding each other's needs, listening deeply, ditching the scorecard, and embracing flexibility.
Yeah.
But most importantly, it's about prioritizing the relationship above all else.
Because strong relationships are built on that foundation of trust, empathy, and a willingness to work together.
And that's a recipe for lasting happiness, not just in our romantic relationships, but in all areas of our lives. We hope you enjoyed this first part of our deep dive, and we'll see you in the next part as we uncover more about building stronger, fulfilling relationships. Until then, keep those deep dives going.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is about building like a network, right?
Yeah.
A network of support where we can lean on each other
Exactly.
when we need to, knowing that we'll have that opportunity to reciprocate.
Yeah, and wouldn't that make us all a little less hesitant to ask for help?
Absolutely.
When we need it, knowing that it's not about keeping score.
But it's about giving and receiving that support,
Mm-hmm.
freely within our relationships.
Absolutely. And speaking of giving and receiving,
Yeah.
one of the most crucial elements of compromise that the article highlights
Right.
is the power of truly being heard.
Oh,
Not just listening to respond,
right.
but listening to understand.
I see how that ties back into the needs versus wants.
Yes.
Right. If you're not really listening to your partner, how can you understand
Exactly.
what's driving their desires?
It's like trying to solve a puzzle without all the pieces.
Right.
The article points out that when we truly listen to our partner,
Uh-huh.
we're not just hearing their words.
Okay.
We're paying attention to their tone of voice,
Oh, wow.
their body language, their underlying emotions.
So we're like detectives in a way,
yes,
trying to uncover the deeper meaning behind it.
exactly. And that
Yeah.
deeper understanding can make all the difference
Yeah.
when it comes to finding a compromise that works for both of you.
Right.
It's about moving beyond those surface level disagreements and getting to the heart of what each person truly needs.
It makes me think about all the times I've been frustrated
Yeah.
because I felt like my partner wasn't getting my point of view,
Right.
but was I really listening to theirs?
It's so easy to fall into that trap.
It is.
We get so caught up in our own
Yeah.
thoughts and feelings that we forget to truly tune in
Right.
to what the other person is experiencing.
Yeah,
But the article emphasizes that good communication, it's a two-way street.
it is.
It's not just about expressing ourselves clearly, but also about being receptive to
Yeah.
what our partner is trying to tell us.
Right. This reminds me of something that we talked about before about the research that shows that high-quality listening during difficult conversations can actually reduce defensiveness
Absolutely.
and build understanding.
Yes. It's not just about being polite.
Right.
It's about fostering that sense of safety and trust.
Yeah.
Creating an environment where both partners feel comfortable being vulnerable and expressing their true needs, and that vulnerability is essential for healthy compromise.
So active listening isn't just a nice to have, it's a must have
It is.
for any relationship that values compromise.
It's the foundation upon which meaningful compromise can be built.
Okay, I'm sold.
Good.
But active listening sounds like it takes effort.
It does.
Are there any tips
Yeah.
that the article gives for honing that skill?
One technique the article mentions is reflective listening.
Okay.
It's about paraphrasing what your partner has said
Okay.
to ensure that you've understood them correctly.
Okay.
So you might say something like, so what I'm hearing is that you're feeling overwhelmed because, or it sounds like what's most important to you.
Right, so it's not just nodding along.
Right.
And saying, every few seconds.
It's about really actively engaging
Yeah.
with what they're saying and making sure you're both on the same page.
And it's like showing them you're truly invested
Yes.
in understanding
Yeah.
their perspective.
Exactly. And it's about showing your partner that you're truly invested in understanding their perspective.
Right.
Even if you don't necessarily agree with it.
I could already see how that could de-escalate a conversation.
It does.
That could potentially be heated, right?
Yeah.
It shifts the focus from being right to connecting with your
Listen.
partner.
And that shift in focus is essential for compromise.
Yeah.
After all, if you're too busy trying to prove your point, you're not going to be open to considering your partner's needs.
Right.
Or finding a solution that works for both of you.
So it's like taking a step back from the battlefield.
Yes.
And remembering that you're on the same team.
Exactly. And that team spirit is what ultimately allows compromise to flourish.
This makes me wonder, though, is there ever a time when scorekeeping is justified?
Ooh, that's a good one.
What about, like, when one partner consistently puts in more effort or makes more sacrifices than the other?
That's a great question, and it's one that the article tackles head on. It acknowledges that there's a fine line between healthy accountability and harmful scorekeeping.
Right.
While it's important to feel like you're both contributing fairly to the relationship, constantly tallying up who did what can quickly turn toxic.
So how do you tell the difference?
Yeah.
How do you know when you're crossing that line?
The article suggests paying attention to your motivations.
Okay.
Are you bringing up past compromises out of genuine concern for the balance of the relationship?
Right.
Or are you using them as ammunition to win an argument
I see.
or make your partner feel guilty?
So it's about checking in with yourself.
Yes.
And being honest about why
Yes.
you're bringing up the past.
Exactly.
If it's coming from a place of resentment
Yes.
or desire to punish your partner,
Yeah.
red flag.
Big red flag.
Right.
Healthy accountability is about open communication
Yeah.
and a shared desire to create a fair and equitable dynamic. It's about expressing your needs and concerns constructively
Okay.
without resorting to guilt trips or scorekeeping.
So it's about focusing on the future
Yes,
of the relationship, not dwelling on past grievances.
exactly. It's about working together as a team to create a dynamic that feels good for both of you.
This makes me think about that concept of flexible fairness again.
Yes.
If one partner is going through a rough patch, it's natural for the other partner to pick up the slack. But how do you prevent that from turning into resentment down the line?
The key is open and honest communication.
Okay.
If you're feeling overwhelmed
Yeah.
or resentful, it's crucial to express those feelings
Okay.
to your partner
Yeah.
in a calm and constructive way.
So not bottling it up
No.
and hoping they magically figure it out.
No bottling up resentment only leads to bitterness and distance.
Right.
Instead, the article suggests framing your concerns in terms of your needs and feelings. You might say something like, hey, I know you're going through a lot right now, and I'm happy to help out, but I'm starting to feel a little burnt out, and I could really use some extra support around the house.
So being vulnerable,
Yes.
expressing your needs clearly, but not blaming your partner.
Exactly. It's about working together as a team to navigate challenges and find solutions that work for both of you.
I'm sensing a theme here.
What's that?
This whole conversation about compromise has really highlighted for me the importance of communication.
It's true. Communication is the bedrock of any healthy relationship,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to navigating those disagreements and challenges.
And it's not just about talking.
Yeah.
It's about truly listening,
Yes.
understanding, and being willing to compromise.
Exactly. It's about remembering that you're on the same team, working together to create a happy and fulfilling life together.
Speaking of working together, the article emphasizes the importance of viewing compromises as deposits in the relationship's bank account. Could you elaborate on that a bit more?
Sure, it's a brilliant analogy, isn't it?
It is.
It shifts our perspective from these individual wins to a shared investment
Okay.
in the long-term health and happiness of the relationship.
So instead of focusing on who won or lost, each disagreement.
Yes,
We're looking at the bigger picture.
exactly. Each time we choose to understand our partner's needs, listen with empathy, and find a solution that works for both of us,
Yeah, exactly.
we're making a deposit into that shared account.
So we're building up like a reserve
Yes.
of goodwill and trust
Exactly.
that can help us in the future.
Yes, and that reserve is invaluable.
Yeah,
It allows us to navigate challenges with greater ease and resilience
right.
because we know that we're both committed
Yeah.
to making the relationship work. We're not keeping score. We're building something together.
This makes me think about those couples that just seem to glide through challenges.
Yes.
Maybe it's not that they don't have disagreements,
Right.
but they've made so many deposits,
Yes.
you know,
over time.
into that relationship bank account. That's a great observation. It's like they've developed this shorthand, this way of communicating and compromising that feels natural and effortless
Right.
because they've put in the work to build that solid foundation.
So it's not about magically becoming conflict-free,
No,
but learning to navigate disagreements and come out stronger.
exactly. And that's a skill that anyone can develop
Yeah.
with practice, patience, and a willingness to prioritize the relationship above all else.
It sounds like compromise is less about giving in
Yeah,
and more about creating a win-win
absolutely.
where both partners feel heard and respected and valued.
It's about recognizing that your partner's happiness is just as important as your own, and that by working together, you can create a relationship that is both fulfilling and sustainable.
This has been incredibly eye-opening.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm already starting to reframe my approach
I love
to compromise.
It's amazing how a few simple shifts in perspective can make such a big difference.
Absolutely. But before we move on, I wanted to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, the fine line between healthy accountability
Yes.
and harmful scorekeeping.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Sure.
How can listeners know when they're crossing that line?
It's a crucial distinction to make.
It is.
While it's important to feel like both partners are contributing fairly to the relationship, constantly tallying up who did what can quickly erode trust
Yeah.
and breed resentment.
So how can you tell the difference between healthy accountability and destructive scorekeeping?
The article suggests paying attention to your motivations.
Okay.
Are you bringing up past compromises out of genuine concern for the balance of the relationship?
Right.
Or are you using them as ammunition to win an argument or make your partner feel guilty?
So it's about checking in with yourself and being honest about why you're bringing up the past.
Exactly.
If it's coming from a place of resentment or a desire to punish your partner,
Yes.
that's a red flag.
It is healthy. Accountability is about open communication and a shared desire to create a fair and equitable dynamic within the relationship.
Right.
It's about expressing your needs and concerns constructively without resorting to guilt trips or scorekeeping.
So it's not about keeping a running tally
No.
of every little thing,
No.
but rather about having open and honest conversations when something feels off balance.
Exactly. It's about addressing issues as they arise rather than letting resentment build up over time.
This makes me think about those couples who seem to be constantly bickering about the same things over and over again.
Right.
Maybe it's because they haven't learned how to have those crucial conversations about fairness and balance
Right.
in a healthy way.
That's a great point. It's like they're stuck in a loop,
Yeah.
replaying the same arguments without ever truly addressing the underlying issue.
The healthy communication and a willingness to compromise are essential
They are.
for breaking free from that loop.
Absolutely. It's about shifting the focus from winning to finding solutions that work for both partners. It's about recognizing that you're on the same team and that your partner's happiness is just as important as your own.
This whole conversation has really highlighted for me the interconnectedness of compromised communication and trust in relationships.
They really are intertwined, aren't they?
They are. You can't have one without the others.
You can't.
And it's not about achieving some perfect state of harmony
Right.
where disagreements never arise.
No.
It's about learning how to navigate those disagreements.
And come out stronger on the other side.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's about embracing the inevitable ups and downs of relationships
Yeah.
and recognizing that challenges, when handled well,
Yeah.
can actually strengthen the bond between two people.
This has been so incredibly insightful. I feel like I have a whole new toolkit
I'm so glad.
for approaching compromise
Good for you.
in my relationships.
It's amazing how a few simple shifts in perspective can make such a big difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But before we move on to the last part of this deep dive, I want to touch on one more thing from the article.
Okay.
It emphasizes that sometimes the best way to compromise is to simply choose love
Oh.
over being right
I love that.
Isn't that what matters most?
It is.
At the end of the day, feeling loved and supported and connected
Yeah.
to someone who truly gets us.
And sometimes that means letting go of the need to be right and choosing to focus on what truly matters,
Yeah.
the health and happiness of the relationship.
So to wrap up this second part of our deep dive into the art of compromise, it seems like the key takeaways are understanding needs listening deeply, bitching at the scorecard, embracing flexibility, and most importantly, prioritizing the relationship above all else.
Those are great takeaways. And remember, compromise is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
It's an ongoing process of learning, growing, and adapting together.
This has been an incredible conversation, and I'm sure our listeners are eager to hear more about how they can put these insights into practice in their own lives. So let's dive into some practical strategies for navigating disagreements and strengthening relationships in the final part of our deep dive. All right, so we've unpacked like a ton of insights about compromise,
We have.
but now let's get practical.
Okay.
How can our listeners actually use these strategies in their everyday lives?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Knowledge is great,
It is.
but it's only truly valuable when we can actually put it into practice.
So true. So where do we even begin?
Yeah, what's step one? Well, the article suggests starting with self-awareness.
Okay.
It's about recognizing those moments when we might be slipping into old patterns.
Okay.
You know, those unproductive patterns,
Yeah.
like automatically shutting down when our partner brings up a sensitive topic,
Uh-huh.
or getting defensive when they express a need that differs from our own.
So it's like hitting the pause button
Yeah.
on autopilot
Yeah.
and observing your reaction.
Exactly. It's about becoming more mindful of our own thoughts and feelings and behaviors in those moments.
Okay, in those crucial moments
Yeah.
of potential conflict.
Right.
So once we've identified the pattern,
Okay.
how do we change it?
Yeah. How do we actually shift that reaction? Well, the article suggests taking a deep breath
Okay.
and reminding ourselves that our partner isn't the enemy.
Right.
We're on the same team.
Yeah, we're not fighting each other.
We're not.
Right.
It's about shifting from that me versus you to we.
Okay, a we perspective.
Yeah.
That's easier said than done, though, right?
It is, especially when emotions are running high.
Especially that,
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for actually calming down in those
Okay.
heated moments?
One technique the article mentions is active listening,
Okay.
which we talked about earlier.
Uh-huh.
It's about truly focusing on what your partner is saying, not just waiting for your turn to talk
Right.
or formulating your rebuttal in your head.
Yeah, it's about putting your ego aside and genuinely trying to understand their perspective.
Exactly. And it's not just about the words they're saying.
Yeah.
It's about paying attention to their tone of voice,
Right.
their body language,
Uh,
their unspoken emotions.
It's about really like getting the full picture.
Yes. It's about sending the message that you truly care about what they're experiencing.
So it's like creating that safe space
Yeah, right.
for them to really open up
Yeah,
without feeling judged or dismissed.
precisely. And that sense of safety is so crucial for fostering a more collaborative and understanding approach to compromise.
I can see it because, okay, so active listening is a big one.
It is.
What other communication strategies does the article suggest for navigating these disagreements?
The article emphasizes the importance of using I statements when expressing your needs and feelings.
Okay.
So instead of saying, you always do this, or you never listen to me,
Right.
try phrasing it as, I feel hurt when, or I need.
Okay, so just taking ownership of
Yeah.
your experience.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of your own emotions and needs rather than projecting them onto your partner.
And it sounds like that would be less likely to trigger defensiveness
It would.
in your partner as well.
It would, yeah.
Yeah.
The goal is to create a more collaborative and understanding environment where both partners feel safe to express themselves authentically.
Right, so it's about de-escalating
Yeah.
rather than escalating.
That's right.
Right?
Exactly.
This makes me think about, understanding the why
Yes.
behind our partner's wants and needs. How can we get better at uncovering those?
It starts with curiosity.
Yeah.
Instead of assuming we already know what our partner is thinking or feeling,
Right.
ask questions.
Ask questions.
And not just any questions.
Yeah.
Open-ended questions that encourage them to elaborate and share their perspective.
Okay, so instead of saying, why are you so upset about this?
Right.
Maybe we could ask.
What is it about this situation that's bothering you?
Yes, something like that.
Exactly. It's about showing genuine interest in understanding their point of view,
Yeah.
even if you don't necessarily agree with it.
Even if you don't agree.
Right.
And that would help us avoid making assumptions,
It would.
which can lead to misunderstandings.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. The goal is to create a space for open and honest dialogue where both partners feel heard and understood.
Yeah. And from that place of understanding, compromise is so much easier.
So much easier.
This whole conversation has really shifted my perspective on compromise.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
It's not about giving in or getting your way.
No.
It's about honoring both your needs and your partner's needs.
Beautifully put. It's about recognizing that you're both on the same team,
Yeah.
working together to create a shared vision of happiness and fulfillment.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
what are some key takeaways?
I think the biggest takeaway is that compromise is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength
right.
and a testament to the power of love
How?
and commitment.
It's about choosing to prioritize the relationship
Yes.
over being right.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that your partner's happiness is just as important as your own.
Uh-huh.
And that true fulfillment comes from creating a shared vision of joy and well-being.
And creating that requires communication,
It does.
active listening, a willingness to understand each other's needs, and finding those solutions that work for both partners.
Absolutely. It's about remembering that you're not adversaries.
Right.
You're partners.
We're partners.
And that by working together, you can overcome any challenge and create a relationship that is truly extraordinary.
This has been such a great conversation. I feel like I've learned so much
Me too.
about what it means to compromise effectively.
I'm so glad you got a lot out of it.
Thank you for being here.
It was my pleasure. And remember, compromise is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
So be patient with yourself, be kind to your partner, and never stop striving to create a relationship that is built on love, respect, and mutual understanding.
To our listeners, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the art of compromise. Remember, healthy relationships take effort, but the rewards are immeasurable. Keep those deep dives going. And until next time, may your relationships be filled with love, laughter, and the joy of shared compromise.